According to the statistics, most of these students won't go through to the high school certificate. At Curry High, only 30% finish Year 12. That's compared to a Hunter average of 52% and a state figure of 65%.
What we do is really important and affects the rest of their lives.
Many end up on the dole queue, with youth unemployment in the Cessnock region a staggering 28%. The Education Department is taking note, hoping to change the entrenched values that young people in the coalfields should quit school and look for work as their parents did.
Whilst that was something that was fine in the past, we are really trying to change that culture of thinking.
The department is calling for community support. Schools are working closely with parents.
If we get it right with the whole community working together, then it's got to mean that the outcomes for kids will be a lot better.
Here at Curry High, teachers are making a conscious effort to keep their students on. They're offering a range of new courses, giving alternatives to the more academic subjects. Horticulture, hospitality and office skills are just some of the subjects on offer. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Wearing black armbands in honour of boxer Lance Hobson, it took the Knights 20 minutes to post first points. With the Johns brothers becoming more involved, O'Davis sent cross for his second before succumbing to an ankle injury. Not to be upstaged, Sal's halves Field and Trindle orchestrated their own four-pointer for Salvatore. Newcastle's timing and handling were still astray before Keith Beecham's well-weighted kick gave the Knights a 16-6 half-time lead, Tracy just getting downward pressure. After the break, Trindle put his own short kicking game on show, scoring 2 tries in 4 minutes to reduce the Knights' lead to 2. The game not secured till the final minute when Tracy crossed for his second. Glanville and Albert both sustained shoulder injuries, the full extent of which won't be known till tomorrow. Meantime, Steve Storey, Brett Cullen and Steve Halen have been chosen in the state residence team, while Curry captain coach Steve Linane could be sidelined for 6 weeks after breaking his hand against North Nelson Bay yesterday. Down by 14 points at half-time against the Hawks, Newcastle rallied in the final term. They led the match by 5, only to allow Illawarra back into the game, outscoring the Falcons 12-3 in the dying stages. The frustration shared by all.
Knowing that this team has the ability, knowing that it has a lot of skill and a lot of character, but not being able to put it together for 48-minute ball games or from ball game to ball game.
In golf, a strong field battled high winds and driving rain in this year's Belmont Junior Classic. Divisions from 12 to 18 years contested the event, a 77 off the stick winning the overall boys for Jeffrey Barnes, while Charlestown's Michelle Nelson continued her good form taking out the Open girls. Newcastle has taken out the half-state hockey tournament on their home turf. In miserable conditions, Newcastle went through the tournament undefeated in Division 1. 2 goals by Kim Robards and 1 by Alicia Bramwell gave the host team a 3-1 win over Grafton in the final. And some of the few sportsmen and women brave enough to venture out into today's wet conditions were on show at Newcastle's annual croquet competition. 19 clubs from around the state are represented this week. Organisers adamant it will continue, rain, hail or shine.
Nestled into a hillside in the Hunter Valley, Arrowfield Winery isn't where you'd expect to see something like this. But a Hong Kong-based company is building a giant set on the vineyard for a new film. It's an action comedy starring Jackie Chan, the martial arts actor who has a cult following around the world. The winery couldn't believe it when they were approached.
Thought someone was just pulling my leg. Location producer came out and thought, what a fantastic spot, and it's all developed from there.
In the film, the building will be the home of a drug lord. Builders are working 7 days a week to get the set finished within 4 weeks, ready to start filming. The same builders also worked on the movie Babe. A giant coal truck has been bought off a nearby mine, and although it couldn't be confirmed, it seems it may feature in an action scene in the movie. The work has created a real talking point in the area, locals intrigued by what's going on.
It's been a bit of a joke when construction first started. We told everyone that it was the new manager's residence.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
After being starved of possession in the 28-point loss to Canberra, coach Keith Gollan has reshuffled his pack. Fijian Amini Tuyagi moves from the second row back to breakaway at the expense of Eddie Moa-Falua. Nathan Richardson and Mark Bennick are the second rowers, while in the backs Jamie McLaughlin has been promoted to the centres in place of Darren Coleman. In soccer, there's still no word on the eagerly awaited match between Adamstown and Warringah in the State Super League. The match was washed out on Sunday and could be played this Friday or Saturday, with the Buds needing a win to qualify for the grand final. And racing today was at Cessnock, where one of the features was the GJ McCarthy Vineyard Handicap over 1,150 metres. Alan Robinson making use of the better going out wide. His Mount Blue Battis returning 720 and 350. Hares Way and Deontay filling the minors.
These miners are the first to have ventured out of the Moonee pit since January 1994. A year and a half ago, it simply wasn't worth bringing the coal out, and the mine shaft was locked up.
In January 94, the coal prices were very poor, and the market didn't justify the sort of increases that were required to make the mine viable.
With a new owner, Coal Operations Australia, and the Japanese and Korean markets jostling for Hunter steaming coal, it's time for Moonee to come out of the mothballs. $10 million has already been spent getting the mine ready for production, with 40 employees now on the job. And there are much bigger plans afoot. By the end of next year, a new longwall operation will be underway, employing another 50 people.
Estimated to produce about 1.2 million tonnes a year with the longwall. Until then, it's going to be in development for the next nearly 2 years, year and a half to more.
Coal Operations says it already has assured overseas markets for all it can produce. It's just a matter of getting the coal into the daylight as quickly as possible. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
The mall is the largest remaining island of optimism for city retailers along Newcastle's Hunter Street. While shops continue to fall vacant to the east and west, the mall enjoys full ground floor lettings, except for the once bustling Coles Fossies building. Along with David Jones, the complex is considered a key economic indicator for the CBD. Keen not to see it left idle, a syndicate of CBD property owners has bought the complex for $1.5 million.
We've had some response from a number of national orientated tenants and also some financial institutions and leisure orientated industry. So we're very positive that this particular building won't be vacant for too long.
But in a bitter blow for the planned mall revitalisation, the City Council looks like shelving a $1.9 million upgrade because of budget cuts.
The mall is trading as good as any other retail centre, and retail is tough. I don't believe the mall is any tougher, but the Charlestowns get their refurbishment, the Garden Cities get their refurbishment, the Stockton Malls, Glendale, we need our refurbishment.
The difference being the enhancement will be paid for with ratepayers' money, thousands of which has already been spent on designing a plan.
Let's not waste that money anymore, let's put it into action.
Mall traders have 1 month to lobby council to alter its decision on the draft budget. In that time, they'll be making as much noise as they can. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Australia's Ron Kremen is becoming something of a star driver in Middle East rallying, a series that sees some of the fastest rally machinery available fighting it out on stone-strewn desert trails. In round 1 of the series this year in Abu Dhabi, Ron Kremen had his first drive of a new four-wheel drive Mitsubishi Lancer. He's competing in Group N for so-called standard cars, but even so he gave the faster Group A cars a run for their money. The event was won by a local driver in a Ford Escort Cosworth, but Kremen did end up in third outright and was a clear winner in Group N. This week he's hoping to repeat the performance in the Rally of Jordan. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
It wasn't a good season for the Newcastle Breakers. Back in the National League, they ran last. It was this man, David Hill, the chairman of Soccer Australia, who was instrumental in getting the club into the NSL. In a controversial move, he sacked 1 Sydney and 2 Melbourne clubs, bringing Newcastle in out of the cold.
I certainly think Newcastle are grateful that their first battling year is behind them and they can look up from here.
The other new club in the competition, Canberra, was also floundering near the bottom. Hill says there is no egg on his face. Crowd numbers across the board are up 20%. Meanwhile, Australia's soccer boss has urged supporters of the Breakers to push for Newcastle as the 2000 Olympic soccer venue, although he admits it will be extremely competitive. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
All this week, Alicia Jenkins had talked herself out of thinking she'd be on the team. The anxious wait over and home in Newcastle this afternoon, she was enjoying one of the best days of her swimming career.
Oh, it means everything. It's a dream that I suppose I never thought was possible, and I decided to give it a chance 3 years ago, and here I am, going off to Atlanta to represent Australia.
24-year-old Alicia, who's put her science degree on hold, will now dive into an accelerated training regime, preparing for a shot at Olympic gold. The toughest competition will probably come from fiercely competitive Aussie teammates, and Alicia is confident she'll be a chance in the 50-metre butterfly, the 200-metre medley and the 100-metre breaststroke. In an unfortunate parallel to the Kieran Perkins selection saga, Newcastle's Joe Walker, who teammates all thought would be on the plane, didn't qualify. 4 other local athletes, Christy Skelton, Neville Millington, Raylene Bock and Marilyn Mills, have also made the 160-strong Atlanta team.
The Wildfires pack arrived a half hour early for training last night. The extra time spent on lineouts, which were substandard in the loss to Canberra.
Yeah, there were a few problems. I don't know whether they're going to grow any taller tonight or not, but we're working on trying to overcome the problem and get ourselves some more pill.
In finding a remedy, Nathan Richardson has been promoted to first grade and will jump at 4 in the reshuffled lineout.
Well, Nathan Richardson is one of the tallest people in the club, and he did perform well in reserve grade last week, and we've shifted Omini from the second row out to flanker, which gives us a bit more height down the back of the line out also.
In their last encounter, Newcastle pushed Manly all the way, only to fail by just 5 points. They will again face a formidable pack, but the coaches hopeful a return to earlier season form could see a surprise.
If we can get ourselves back up to Warringah Western Suburbs standard, well, we'll stop them and we'll get a decent amount of ball and we'll get away with the game.
Long-time rivals, both sides are in a similar situation tonight. They've been struggling to find form and have new-look rosters for season 96. They have played each other several times in the pre-season, Shane Hill already angering Falcons officials. The sharpshooters scrapping with Lachlan Armfield a month ago, which will add to the on-court tension.
An emotional game, and it will be a game that the people that uses their emotion and controls the emotion, the best will win the ball game.
At the Motordrome, Australia's richest demolition derby will go ahead tomorrow after a delay. The program was washed out last week, with the $10,000 derby and the super sedans the highlights of the rescheduled meeting. In northern New South Wales soccer, Wallsend and Maitland play tonight, while there's just the one game tomorrow. 3 games on Sunday, with Hamilton and Highfields the feature. And in netball, still city rivals Newcastle and Illawarra confront each other in the Inter-District League tomorrow. It will be the undefeated Flyers' toughest test to date and takes place at 3:15.
The Singleton Gun Club holds a charity day for local bushfire brigades every year, but today an atmosphere of tension and uncertainty hung over the usual festivities. Like shooters clubs across the country, the group is concerned about the effect the new gun reforms will have on their sport.
With our members, it's just everybody's just talking about it, and they're sort of all law-abiding citizens, and from now on they're going to be sort of classed as sort of criminals, really, aren't they?
While many agree that gun ownership regulations need tightening, they say the new regime is little more than a knee-jerk reaction to the Port Arthur tragedy and will discriminate against responsible gun owners.
We don't disagree with the laws, but as long as our sport, as clay target shooters and sporting shooters, aren't victimised, as long as we're not the ones that have to pay for unregistered, unlicensed and illegal guns.
The Sporting Shooters Association of Australia is now organising its own National Gun Summit to be held in Sydney in 2 months. Emma Ossian, NBN News. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a debilitating illness which affects about 1 in 1,000 people. Some say that figure is probably much higher, with many undiagnosed sufferers. A team of researchers at Newcastle University has spent the past few years attempting to unravel some of the mystery behind the illness, most significantly what causes it. Today, in a seminar organised by the Hunter Chronic Fatigue Support Group, they revealed new research which shows the illness is a physical, biochemical problem distinct from other psychiatric disorders. They feel some people may even be genetically predisposed to the disease. The discovery gives new hope to long-term sufferers such as Mary Sanderson.
And until you begin to understand what's going on with your body and then try to manage the symptoms instead of letting the illness manage you, you really are floundering around.
The sun was shining and the people of Scone lined the streets to celebrate the beginning of the area's week-long horse festival. The gala parade began just before midday, a marching band leading the way. The stock horse presentation followed, with the larger Clydesdales not far behind. Not all the crowd pleasers followed the equestrian theme though, as the cavalcade weaved its way through the streets. A clown did his bit for the area's law enforcement, while that famous pig, Babe, made a guest appearance. The festival continues tonight when competitors get down to business with the rodeo and rough ride. Other horse events are organised for later in the week. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
Believe it or not, these guys actually have a strategy, simply to keep the motor running. And that's just what Wayne Jackson did, better than anyone else. More than 80 started the derby, all keen to smash and crash their way to $8,000 in prize money. But it was Jackson in the number 96 Holden who emerged king of the Motordrome. He took away $5,000 for his troubles. One suspects some of it will be spent at the panel beaters. Turning to rugby league, and Curry has leapt to third spot in the Tooheys Cup after a narrow victory against Toronto. The Bulldogs winners 40 points to 36. In other games, Lakes defeated Central Charlestown, Maitland 16-14 over Souths, and North Nelson Bay 8-point winners over Cessnock. Robert Ovadia, NBN News. Students from New Mexico State University looked at ease today as they took in a bit of Australiana. But odds are they won't be quite as relaxed come tip-off tonight, with the Falcons in this sort of form.
Coming back after they had the emotional comeback to send the game into overtime and to withstand that pressure was good for a young team.
A full complement of Falcons will take the court, including captain Butch Hayes and David Van Dyke, who snatched 26 points against the Kings. Their opposition boasts a 148-45 win-loss record in college basketball during the past decade, one of the best in the States. Coach Neil McCarthy, who has won 10 Coach of the Year awards, says the match against the Falcons will be a step up in grade.
Well, yeah, all the teams we're playing are good, so they're all pro teams, so just see how we do.
Meanwhile, Newcastle will use tonight's match as an ideal build-up to the clash with Hobart on Friday.
It's a session that will be much better than a training session. Our players always enjoy that.
Robert Ovadia, NBN News.
To test some people in pressure situations.
Yeah, the Devils at the end of this week, you think it's a
The Ombudsman took anything but a softly approach to the Port Stephens Council. The report uses language little short of scathing from beginning to end. The main focus is on Council's record keeping and complaints handling procedures relating to boreal sand extraction work at Fullerton Cove. The report says there is no question that Council's records management has been extremely deficient. There are quite simply no records of telephone conversations, site inspections or relevant meetings. Later it refers to Council's appalling records management. But the Mayor says the Ombudsman's criticism of Council's efficiency is a bit rich, considering the Ombudsman took 2 years to hand down its findings.
I wonder why $30,000